Hello and welcome back to the RetroBreak Podcast. This is episode 43 and I've got a very interesting concept to share with you in this episode, and the title may not be exactly how it seems. So as you can see, the title is I wish that games were more like books or films, but not in the way that you would expect. So you're probably thinking that I mean in the narrative way, like I would like better cutscenes, maybe a more focused story, maybe chapters in games or something like that, but no, the way I'm thinking of it is very different to that actually, and it's more to do with the accessibility of books and films and how difficult it is for people to get into games if they're not already familiar with how to actually play them. So I've been reading a lot of books lately and I've been going to bookshops and things, and you know, there's no barrier to entry with a book. You can go into a shop, you can buy a book from any year, like all the way back to when books were first published, and you can buy new versions of those books. You can buy like classics that have been reprinted in the year 2020, for example. With games, that's just almost completely impossible. There's a few exceptions where companies reprint games in the past and publish them on modern systems, but even then you still have like 4 different versions. You have like PC, and obviously you can't go into a shop and buy the PC version anymore, so that's kind of not something you can stumble into. You have to be actually looking for that game on a store on the PC, whereas I'm kind of thinking like if you go into a store like Waterstones and you see a classic book on the shelf, you can just buy the book right there and you can go home and read it. You don't need to worry about how you're going to read it. You don't need like a specific console to read a specific book. You don't need a specific Blu-ray player to play a specific Blu-ray disc. You just buy a Blu-ray or a DVD and you put it in whatever you've got access to, and then you can watch it. It's so simple. But games aren't like that, and I feel like that is a really big barrier to entry that's never properly been addressed. I know there were companies in the past that were attempting to address this, like the 3DO by EA, and the kind of idea that you have this sort of system for games. They were kind of basing it on the VCRs at the time, where companies would license out the VCR technology, and then you were free to build your own VCR system around that. And they kind of did the same with games. So you had people like Panasonic and Sony and people like that making their own systems. And Microsoft tried it a few years earlier in Japan with the MSX line of computers as well, and I guess more recently with Windows too, but it's still never quite reached the same level of ease and acceptability with the general public, and I really do think that that is something that's stopping more people getting into gaming. And I know it kind of is a direction that people want to go. I know Microsoft's talked a lot about the idea of being able to play a game wherever you want on whatever system you want, but I'm even trying to take it a step further than that and saying the systems are all the same. I don't know how that would work, and I don't think it ever will, because all of the different companies that create game consoles and computers, they're all too protective over their own proprietary formats. I can't see Nintendo ever doing anything that's that open, and the only real sort of competitor to something like that is a PC, or kind of something like one of the handheld PCs like the ROG Ally or the Aya Neo whatever's. But even then, it's not really the same, because I'm talking about going into a shop and actually buying something that you can then play on anything, and also having re-releases of past games and past experiences and stuff all available to buy, whether that's new or second-hand. And you would buy these, and it would just be on whatever format is openly available to play on any system. I honestly think something could work like a high-capacity SD card that came in a box, and they could just reprint every single game in a standard form. Well, it doesn't even need to be a standard format. Like the box and the manual, they could be bespoke, they could be unique, they could still look like the original consoles and the original systems, kind of like how books have all these different covers, and you get hardback and you get paperback and you get special edition prints and things like that. It would just be like that, but inside, just like words on a page, you would have a standard format like an SD card, or like a USB stick, I guess, or just something that you could put inside whatever system or computer you have and just be able to play the game, whether that's an old game, whether that's a new game. It would just be this timeless experience, and I really don't think this will ever happen, but if for whatever miracle you could get access to like every single game, the library of every game ever made, like go into all the archives for all the different manufacturers and have a factory making these cards, and then you could just sell them in stores like Game or anywhere. Like you could go into even, I don't know, maybe there could be an offshoot of a bookshop that would just sell games, and it would just be alphabetical order or maybe by publisher or developer. And then you could have access to their entire catalogue of games, all on these little cards and all for really affordable prices as well, because, you know, most games in the past wouldn't even take up a gigabyte, so the cards would be super cheap to produce. It would be more about the packaging and the presentation of the games, and you know, the joy of actually going to the shop and buying something and taking it home and experiencing the game. And then of course you run into loads of other issues as well, like all the different control methods and things, like how would you translate all of these different controls from all these different systems onto one specific controller. You would need to have some sort of brand new controller that everyone had access to, and I have no idea how that would work. I guess maybe a touchscreen interface, but I'm not a massive fan of touchscreen interfaces. But let me know in the comments if you're watching over on YouTube, or let me know on the voice notes if you're listening on Spotify or an Apple Podcast. Check the description. Let me know whether I'm completely insane for wanting this. Let me know whether you think it could ever be a possibility. I really don't know, but you know, it's some grand vision that I've had in my head for a long time, and I think it would be really amazing, and it would open up people to be able to experience games from any generation without having to worry about emulation, without having to worry about crazy prices for retro games these days. And I don't think it would actually damage the collector's market, because people would still want to collect the original physical products. This would be just a more accessible way of experiencing the past without having to go through the trouble of setting things up or getting converters for your TV or anything like that. You could literally just buy a card, go home, or maybe not even go home. You could put it into whatever handheld is also compatible with all of these things and just play the games and enjoy them. And maybe they would all be upscaled to a certain standard, like maybe, again, wishful thinking, but maybe every game could be in 1080p at a minimum, with a minimum frame rate of 60 frames a second, for example. I feel like that's a good entry-level spec to aim for, that doesn't really push the limits, it doesn't really break the bank or anything. And obviously there would also have to be a cut-off point with when these games are actually compatible, but maybe it could be some sort of new format. I know there are things that are trying to do this, like the Evercade is releasing cartridges. Of course, they're still proprietary and they only work on them, but they are going back into developers' back catalogues and getting the license for the IP and releasing them on a cartridge. And I think that's a really cool idea, but it's not quite there just yet. You still need to get a very specific Evercade console, and that's another thing to clutter up the shelf, and it's another set of controllers you need to worry about. It's another set of HDMI cables and plug sockets and all of that. I just want a really simple solution where I can just go and buy any game that I want from any developer ever made, buy it on a little card, put it into the system, and just play it. No installing, no downloads required, nothing like that. Just put the game in and play in the best way possible, and they should all be like set up correctly, so you don't have to go through any settings or anything to try and get the games working at full speed or anything like that. Like completely flat, you just put the game in, it boots up to the title screen, and there's no issues. That is my dream. It's probably never going to come true, but yeah, let me know what you think. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That was just something that popped into my head the other day. And now on to the second part of the podcast, and I hope you are enjoying these. I know I've taken a little bit of a break, but let's talk about some of the games that I've been playing recently. So first of all, there is an exciting announcement that you might have seen if you watch me over on my actual channel, which is just called Nick Westwood, which is just where I put anything that's not gaming related. But I actually proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance, a few weeks ago. And we went away to a log cabin and we took the PS5 with us, and while I was there preparing for everything that was going on, go and watch the vlog if you're interested in hearing how that went, because I had a great time and I think she did too. But anyway, the game we played was Alan Wake 2 on the PS5. We took it with us And it was great to not have any distractions. And I finally got to the end of that game, and the story was just fantastic. And now I really want to play Control as well, because I've played Alan Wake 1 and 2, and now I want to fill in all the gaps of my knowledge by playing Control before whatever sequel comes out in the near future. So I really enjoyed that. The one downside I will say about the game is the combat really wasn't very good at all. In fact, I much preferred it in the first game. But apart from that, everything else was fantastic. The graphics and the story in particular were just mind-blowing, like top of the league, like in terms of games in general. It really is amazing. And if you haven't played it, highly recommend it. But play the first game first so that you know who all the characters are and sort of all the different flashbacks and different scenes that you get on the way in the second game, because it really is worth having that extra bit of knowledge to fully immerse yourself in the world and the story. Another game that I've just started playing yesterday, actually, and this is something that I'd wanted to play for a while, and I finally rooted through all of my Wii U games, and the game wasn't in the box, and that is Twilight Princess HD. So we actually ended up ordering another copy of the game, and we picked that up just after we came back from the log cabin, and I finally started playing it yesterday, and it still holds up as one of the best Zelda games ever made, and just one of the best action-adventure games in general. I forgot how good the atmosphere is in Twilight Princess, and it's just so nostalgic to go back to all of the different regions, like the Ordon village at the start, and you get to see how Link lives before he goes off in his grand adventure to rescue all the light spirits and stuff, and it's just such a good game. And I'm on my way now to Zora's Domain. I've just done the bit where you get that big lava stick thing from Death Mountain and you put it into the ice at the top and the water starts flowing back down, and I've just flooded the lake and made it back into a proper lake again. So that's where I'm up to, and hopefully I'll be able to do the water temple tonight, and I am really enjoying myself. And it has reminded me that I really love the Zelda series so much, and I'm kind of so sad where they've taken it with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I really hope they go back to that traditional Zelda style in the future. I really hope they haven't forgot it, because Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword are two of my favourite Zelda games and two of my favourite games of all time. So to see such a massive departure from that series has kind of been difficult for me, and I really hope they go back to that style, because playing Twilight Princess again, I'm enjoying it so much more than I was with Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't know whether people feel the same way about the modern Zelda games or not, or whether I'm an outlier in that sense, but I just love it. I love the structure. I love the companion. Midna's fantastic. I love how she acts and how she's animated and stuff. It's so cool. I love the light world and dark world. I love the intricacies of the dungeons. I love the different environments you get to go to. I made sure I spoke to everyone in Kakariko Village, in Ordon Village, and soon to be in Zora's Domain as well. And I just love everything about it. And the only other game that I've been playing recently is a little bit more of Advance Wars 1 and 2. It's another game that I played while I was away, and it's just a great game to play on the go, honestly. And yesterday, I did also download Planet Coaster, because I was thinking about playing another theme park game, so hopefully I'll find some time to install that and play it again in the future. And now on to part 3 of the podcast, which is some of the projects that I've been working on. So if you have a look on my RetroBreak channel, you'll see that I uploaded recently a video called 9 Cancelled Game Boy Color Games. And that is something that I've been working on for a long time, so I'm very happy to finally get that out in the open. And that is helping me push on the way to 40,000 subscribers. And I'm so excited for that milestone. I've got a really cool video planned for you guys, so I hope we can get there soon, because I really want to make that and get it out there. I've also got some bigger videos planned as well. I've been working again on my Akihabara history video, because we are planning to go back to Japan soon, and there are some bits for that I want to film in person, so I'm making sure that I've got all of the details ready and all of the script written, so when I do go back to Japan I can actually film that and add it into the documentary, I guess it's going to be. And I don't really know what channel to put it on just yet, because it's not entirely gaming related, so it might go on my second channel. I haven't really decided, but I know I want to make it really good, and I want to use it to kind of push my skills in terms of making those sort of videos. So that's something I'm really looking forward to working more on. Unfortunately, I'm really struggling with the book at the minute. I've been trying to do some more, but I really can't figure out what chapters to include, and it's just ballooning out of control, and I need to sort of scale it back a bit. So the book's on hold for now. The main thing is trying to push to get to 40,000 subscribers. And now for some content that I've enjoyed over the past few weeks, and let's start with something that I finished watching today, and that is Sea Dog VA and Abroad in Japan doing their Cyclothon 3.0 from one side of Japan to Tokyo, to the Tokyo Tower, and I managed to watch a little bit of it live. It's kind of difficult timing it here in the UK because they go live at around 2 o'clock in the morning, but I did stay up for a few nights and watch a little bit, and I've been catching up on some of the clips online, and I managed to get up early this morning and watch them cross the finish line, and it was so cool to see everyone waiting there for them at Tokyo Tower, and it's just such a great event, and they raised over $1 million for charity, which is incredible. So I've been really enjoying catching up with that. Some other stuff, I know I bring this channel up every single episode, but of course Thomas Brush is here once again. I really enjoyed his video about Notch's new game and his new studio. So for those of you that don't know, Notch is the person who made Minecraft, and he's made a new studio and he's working on a brand new game. Don't think it has a name just yet, but I really like the style of it. I think it's got a really cool atmosphere. So looking forward to seeing where that goes in the future. And something else content-wise, and this is a book that I was reading, and if you watch my vlog from the cabin, you'll see that I was reading this, and I really need to go back to it, and I'm actually planning to reread it and take some notes as well, because there is so much really cool thought, I guess, in this book, and that is called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And I knew I wanted to read this book for a long time because I've seen him on various podcasts over the years talking about creativity and how to get into the flow of coming up with better ideas, and I'm definitely going to be applying some of the stuff that I read in that book into my creative projects here on YouTube. So hopefully you see things improve even more in the future. So anyway, that is it for episode 43 of the podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my crazy idea about how games should be more like books and films, and hopefully it made sense. It's been going around in my head for a long time, so it feels great to get it out verbally and then onto the internet to live on forever. So if anyone's listening to this now or in the future, is an impossible challenge, but let's see whether we can make it happen. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all again here on the RetroBreak Podcast, hopefully in 2 weeks' time. So until then, take care. Goodbye.